That scene was like, he never want to put me in a woman's
Woman's
body.
body?
And I was like, what are we talking about?
Miss Minutes, calm down.
Hey, calling out all my nerds, freaks, and geeks. It's mob time.
Don't tune in cause it's showtime. Go ahead and call the gang up for the one time. Rap, food, rhyme, got them on the line. And my life's still great, I'm doing just fine. Hands up.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Blerd Mob, your hub for all things black and nerdy. I am your host, Foop. If you guys and variants are listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get updates from the mob. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like the video, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and make sure you hit those bell notifications for future uploads. Today, I am joined by a special guest. I am joined today by the co-host of the Gurren Otaku Council podcast, McMillian. Woo! Woo! Also, my Marvel and DC brother in crime. It's great to have you here, McMillian. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you guys check out McMillian and his other co-hosts on the Gurren Otaku podcast. Find them on Facebook at Gurren Otaku Council, their Instagram page at Gurren Otaku Council, and their Twitter page, or X, whatever you want to call it, at the Gurren Otakus. So what's going on, McMillian?
Nothing much. Just living, trying to, make it through the day. Stuff like that.
That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've alluded to in my introduction, we are here to do a mob review of Loki Season 2. So Loki Season 2 debuted on Disney Plus on October 5th, 2023 and ended on November 9th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So as you guys know, our mob reviews are spoiler-filled. So if you have not seen Loki, if you've seen a couple episodes and haven't finished the season, if you're still on Season 1, I need you to pause this video, like it, subscribe, make sure you come back, go finish Loki, and then come back and listen to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But before we dive deep into Loki, there's been a lot of news surrounding the MCU. And like I said, I have my Marvel and DC brother in crime right here, McMillian. So I just have to get your thoughts before we hop into this Loki review. How are you feeling about the current state of the MCU?
Okay, so I'm having a couple of problems with Marvel right now, and it's mostly the fact of I can tell they're trying to, what do I want to say? I feel like they're trying to do some new things, but also holding on to the old stuff. Like, I feel like, they built up this, is empire the right word? I guess maybe not empire, but they've changed the way movies are being made. I feel like
I think I would call it an empire because I guess, like, if you look at the superhero genre, I would really say, like, Marvel really defined the superhero genre. And, like, even if we look at, we can talk about the DCU all day, the DCEU, or even the outside superhero stuff. Like, at a certain point in time, who was holding the candle to the MCU?
Mm-hmm. No, so I guess you could say empire, but like they've affected the movie industry so much now. It's like they've changed cinema regardless, and I feel like they're kind of, for lack of a better term, smelling their own farts. They've reached a height that they're just like, we can do no wrong, and I really feel like it's holding back some creative stuff. Like, for instance, I think we got like the first real look at that when it came to Multiverse of Madness and how it was originally going to be advertised as like a more horror type of film. And then when you get in the theater, that's not what we got. Like, there was remnants of what the director wanted, I think, the film to be. But what we got at the end was more of the same Marvel stuff. And then even like take that with Thor Love and Thunder, like it was like, do basically have it, make it as quippy as possible, and then take out all like the dramatic stuff, and then it fell flat. So I feel like they're running into an issue with the fact that like they've gone so high that they can't recognize like that they're sucking the life out of the thing that they helped bring about.
They can't see their faults.
Mm-hmm.
We've said this on a podcast before, me and the rest of the mob, is that Marvel doesn't really have competition. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
good thing about competition, or the thing about rivals, like we see in the media all the time, is that rivals feed off each other.
Yeah.
Like where you have a flaw, it's that constant tit for tat. Like, I need to get better because of this, or they're doing this, we need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's really going tit for tat with the MCU right now. So I definitely agree. Like, they're trying to do new stuff, and they're trying to keep like that same old 2000s Marvel Iron Man
Mm-hmm.
Endgame type feel, and it's not really, you know, cutting the mustard, paying the bills.
Yeah.
But they can't see the flaws in the media that they're making, is because they don't have anything else to compare it to, or we don't have anything to say, hey Marvel, hey MCU, hey Kevin Feige, this is what we wanted Multiverse of Madness to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that, and also I wish they weren't, and I think this is also somewhat part of like the issue that they're having. Um, they're so adamant about the MCU not being the comics, which bothers me to a degree, because I'm just like, the what you're adapting is from the comic books, and their whole thing is like, I think I read somewhere in an article a few months back that like they are more likely to try and like hire someone that has no frame of reference or knowledge on the comic book. They even encourage, I think they say, the directors or writers not to read the original like story that it's adapting, so that they can like put their I don't know what like the I don't know what the exact thing is, but to me it just seems very, I don't know, like they're going against themselves. I feel like, in more so in my opinion, than they are like helping themselves.
I can see it two ways. I think that sometimes seeing the source material, trying to make something new, because all of this
Hmm.
is new. Even now, even all of these years later, like the stories that they're adapting, trying to bring it to life and include all these characters is new. And I could see the hesitation of shoving somebody in the source material, because it doesn't give them room to actually be creative.
Hmm.
Like, you're so sucked in and trying to replicate the source material that you're missing the elements that we could bring a little bit more life to, or we could have a character. What if we made the character do this? Something like that. But I
Hmm.
also agree with your point 100%, because let's just talk about Secret Invasion. What the hell? Where I even said this before it came out. How is this even going to turn out? Because if you
Yeah.
look at the storyline for Secret Invasion, that is what we saw on that Disney Plus show, and what's in that comic books are two completely
Completely
different
different.
storylines. My other thing is that there are some heavy hitters in Secret Invasion that you guys just killed off in Endgame, or haven't even introduced yet.
Yeah.
So doing a Secret Invasion storyline was it piqued my interest, but then when I saw the execution, it was kind of like, what was the point?
Yeah. The end product definitely wasn't. Yeah, great. And like I don't say it like as in I don't bring that point up as in like saying, like, to your point, like I do think you could run the risk of someone trying to recreate something. But like, for instance, if you had someone look at the material of Secret Invasion, just to use that thing, Secret Invasion could have been a phase all its own. To make it a TV show, I thought that was like crazy. I remember when they originally announced Secret Invasion, I thought it was going to be a movie at the least, and then they came out and then they were like, "Oh, it's a show," and I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna do. It has to be like Shield focus or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, this definitely seems like they're gonna like have to. They're gonna basically just taking the name, like, because it's not other than the scroll part. Like, you're not gonna get what is
They
in the
looked at
comic.
that comic book, saw them fat ass squirrels, and was like, "Okay, we got it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to turn."
That's
That was like, "You don't want to turn a couple pages." No, I see the squirrels right there. I know. I see. We've seen squirrels before. I got this. We saw Captain Marvel one time. We know what squirrels
so.
are.
That was basically it. And it's just, and it's odd to me, and I think like this relates to the thing, because like there are some people saying like maybe the reason the MCU is falling off right now is because of superhero fatigue, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because if that was the case, then things like The Boys, Gen V, or Invincible would not be the hottest thing right now.
I agree.
Like, you can't. So for me, it's just I think right now, like Marvel's biggest issue is just that like they've trapped themselves. I feel like they're not by not letting themselves be more creative and be more expressive with these superhero stories that they're trying to tell. They've fallen into a formula and they need to break it.
I want to quote a comment that Kira, if you're listening to this, our friends Room Full of Blerds, left a comment on one of our videos, and she made the point that the MCU has this "we do what we want" attitude. And for a certain point of time, it worked. Because if you see the way the MCU started, the characters they were bringing up, the stories that they were developing, they were doing things that, you know, we hadn't seen in cinema, just like you said. Like, they were making breakthroughs in cinema to where it was like, yeah, you guys can do what you want. You can put this in front of us in the screen. We are still going to watch it. But I think it's getting to the point now where that "we do what we want" attitude is biting y'all in the ass. Because just going back to your points, you guys adapting these heavy storylines where the source material should really shine through it, and y'all should not, you know, looking the other way, turning the other cheek and be like, we're gonna go this way because we feel like going this way. It's biting y'all in the ass for real.
Yeah. And that type of pigeonholing is not going to get them to where they want to be if they keep doing it like this. Like people are checking out obviously already, and I think if they continue that, it's not gonna. It's going to lead to the death of the thing, then more so like the evolution is and I'm pretty sure that's what they want is to evolve, is to keep evolving these stories, keep doing this thing because it prints money. So
yeah, I would just say as long as folks keep going to the movie theaters, they not going is the formula. They did come out a couple weeks ago and said they are changing the formula to how they're doing the Disney Plus shows.
Which is, I think they definitely needed to work on that because my biggest issue with the Disney Plus shows, even like the good ones such as like WandaVision, you get good for majority of it, and then the end you're like, what did I just see on my screen?
The
right?
end, or my issue with the Disney Plus shows, I just kind of feel like they're everywhere, or they're releasing them. I think the thing that I appreciated about phase 1 through 3 was that even though we were watching like an Iron Man movie, then the next movie that comes out is Captain America, then the next movie that comes out is Thor, it's like you can feel all of this leading up to something. And with some of these Disney Plus shows, the way we were hopping around different shows, getting introduced to these different characters, and then the movies weren't really pulling the elements for what we just sat down and watched this 6 episode event. Like, you know, quick spoiler for the Marvels, we just saw Kate Bishop come back. Hawkeye came out in 2021.
Yeah.
And we're just now seeing Kate Bishop back. So I just felt like I agree with you. I feel like they need to get it together. And I'm going to say it again. For everybody who's heard me say it before, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it. When James Gunn gets to ripping and running with this DCU, Kevin, I need you to get this shit together. Because that man's not playing. James is not playing.
Yeah. I definitely think I'm very interested to see what will happen when there is a contender in the cinema space for this.
That's what I'm saying. If Superman Legacy comes out and be the best thing of sliced bread since the DC animated universe, you're gonna have to get it together. You're going to have to. If I walk out that movie theater a Superman fan, somebody done fucked up. Somebody has fucked up.
Someone did a really good job and somebody fucked up.
Somebody. James Gunn, you did a damn good job. And Kevin Feige them, y'all done fucked up. If I walked out that movie theater a Superman fan. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. There's been so much news surrounding the MCU, even outside of the shows and the movies are coming out. And just to touch on your thing about superhero fatigue, you made a really good point. Like, it's not superhero fatigue.
Yeah,
I think it's the structure of the movies.
Yes.
it's the way that these movies have been going in these shows. I'm gonna just put it in the shows too. You know, we're trying to having that impulse because it's kind of like they have us in a chokehold. It's like you feel like you can't because of the way that they have set things up in the past. You feel like you can't miss a Disney Plus show, or you're gonna miss some integral part in the MCU, or if you don't go see this movie, you're gonna miss out on something. And every time we step into Disney Plus, and every time we step into that movie theater, we just get a movie that leads to nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
For the Marvels, and this isn't like a spoiler or anything, but like for instance, I have some friends that aren't that big into the Disney Plus shows, so but they like watch the movies, so we went to go see it together, and I remember telling them, I was like, I don't really think other than Miss Marvel, there's anything you need to watch prior, which they did. They liked Miss Marvel. But I was like, maybe Secret Invasion might play into it. I don't know how it could, but maybe. And when we got in the theater, I was like, oh no, never mind. Y'all good. That
Honestly, you probably didn't even have to watch Miss Marvel. If you wanted extreme familiarity with the background of Miss Marvel, of the MCU, Miss Marvel's character, and just understanding her family dynamic a little bit more, you could have watched it. But y'all didn't have to watch that show to go see that movie. But we gonna save it. It's coming. We have a Marvel's review coming, and I'm gonna let everything out. I'm gonna lay it on the table. But I want to move on. Let's get into Loki.
Yes.
So what I want to do, McMillian, I want to start from the outside, and then we're gonna work our way deeper and deeper into the depths of Loki season 2.
Okay.
So my first hot take for you is, how did you feel about the season overall? And we can discuss in comparison to season 1. And then my side question to this is, do you feel like this was a satisfying end to Loki's story?
Okay, so if we're working from the outside going in, I thought so I'll answer one of the questions. Was it satisfying? To me, yes. It was. I thought this was a great way for a character to, his whole quote was, I am burdened with glorious purpose, to end with being the I don't even know if I want to say, like, the god of time, the loom,
the holder
itself
of the multiverse.
Yeah. To become that after going through everything that Loki as a character like went through all the movies and even like within the show, I thought that was a great way for it to go. I didn't even expect it. I was legitimately wondering, like, I think when I was watching the last episode, everything he's trying at this point has no end, and he was really contemplating doing something that I knew he wasn't going to do. So I was like, where is this leading? And then when it happened, I was like, all right, whoever did this was cooking. Y'all was in that motherfucker.
Because I was watching it like, just like you. I didn't understand. I didn't realize what was going on. Like, he blew up the loom, and he's grabbing on these branches, and I was like, okay, is he giving life to the branches? It's like, what are we doing? And then you just continue to see him walking, gathering these branches, and then you see the throne, and I was like, not he about to trap himself outside of time and hold out all the multiverses. And it just goes back to your thing, like, burdened with glorious purpose. I think the thing that they've hammered on in the Loki series is that Lokis are meant to lose. And it was like, here's this glorious purpose. Like, yeah, like you're holding the multiverse together. It don't get no more glorious purpose than that.
Yeah.
But now you have to, one, sit here, hold all the timelines together, and everybody who you've tried to save in these past 6 episodes, you can't see them again. You are alone.
So there's I don't know if it was a TikTok or an edit I saw on Twitter, but they were probably the same. I don't know. They probably were the same thing. But there was a thing of someone had put in the scene from the first Avengers where Tony tells Loki, there is no throne at the end of all this. I don't know what you think you're going to get, but there's not a throne. And then they clipped that end scene of Loki season 2 with him, him going to the throne and sitting on it. And I remember, I think, reading a comment in that thread saying, look at him, he won, he proved Tony wrong. And I'm like, he didn't win. I mean, like, he got a throne, but is this a win? Would you classify that
Define
as a win?
win.
Yeah.
Define win.
I was like, would you classify that as a win? He got technically something he wanted, but at what cost?
Exactly.
So like I thought that was great. And now in comparison to season 1, I like this better. Now I granted I don't know which critically is better, but I do think I like season 2 better because there was a lot of what do I want to say? Like the foreshadowing, I feel like in season 2 was immaculate. Like you start off first episode of Loki having to be pulled from the timeline, like himself being pulled from the timeline, him shifting through the timeline, and then that leading to him literally existing outside of time.
Right.
Like that was great. The way they like weaved everything together to where it's like, because I remember at the end of season 1, I was like, oh no, he went to a different universe where Kang is in charge of the TVA, and then you find out that oh no, he was in the past of his own. It's just that like at one point the TVA was like a military force, and they had to be ruled as like taken over as such. And I was like, that is such an interesting way to flip the viewer's conception of what they just last saw.
I really like flipped like the time travel genre. Like I don't think it surprised anybody at the end of Loki season 1 where we all thought, oh, he's in another universe, because we've seen this trope happen with time travel 11 times. But to twist it on his head and it's like, no, he's not in another universe. He's just in the past. And now he has this power where he can just go front and back, but he can't really control it. And then that's like the whole journey. We're trying to deal with this aftermath of like killing He Who Remains and things like that. I agree with you. I definitely enjoyed this season more. I think the interesting thing that I found about the whole Loki story is that after the season ended, it was either the director or the writer of Loki said that this was meant to be 2 parts of a whole. So like that first part is like Loki being outside the timeline, figuring out all this stuff means, and then we come to that really, if you want to look at it, what the climax of them killing He Who Remains. And then season 2 is just dealing with that aftermath and coming down to that resolution that no matter what y'all do, like the TVA is done. And then he has to come in, do his thing and just hold it all together. And I was like, seeing where Loki started, that Avengers 1 Loki, and just seeing him make that whole 180 to the Loki that he ends up in season 2, I think was very satisfying to watch.
The great conclusion for the character. And I think, like you said, the director did truly mean for this to be like season 1, first half, season 2, like second half, complete circle. I think they did a great job with that. Like how he learned of the TVA and everything, and then how like where it went to finding out like, oh, this thing that I was against, but then later on like came back around to having to like be the center point and hold it all together to like really learn why it was needed, and then to then be truly a part of it. I thought was like a great story in and of itself.
Definitely. I think it's one of those redemption arcs, like going back to like did he really win? Like did he, the throne, did he really win? It's one of those redemption stories to where the character grows, but they don't necessarily win at the end. It's like it's a satisfying end to their character. They did this great thing, saved all the multiverse, but your fate through that redemption is not just, oh, I get to live with my friends, I'm good Loki now. It's like, no, you got to sit here and hold this together. Like it was that redemption that led to like that bigger sacrifice that you had to accept.
I think it's like a great way also to illustrate like a good ending, but like not a good, like, it's like it's good for like, oh, everything didn't go to shit. Like the world's still intact. They had the timelines intact. It like technically it was a good resolution, but it wasn't necessarily like what the character wanted. It wasn't. I wouldn't say like this is wrapped up with a nice bow type
Right.
of story. Like
It's not like a hooray.
yeah, it's more of like we survived, and sometimes that's how it goes. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna get everything you want. I think at the end of it, and I think that was a pretty good representation of like Loki's story. Like everything he struggled to get and everything like he wanted, it's like out of reach for him. But at the end of the day, he found out he truly discovered a purpose that was bigger than himself, that a cause that he felt that was just to give like himself to. And I think that in and of itself is, I guess, a good, is a good ending for the character, because it was something you could tell he was looking for basically throughout his like
Right.
life. So
Like purpose, belonging. And it was sad. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't one of those hooray. It was kind of like one of those, oh no, because he finally found like these group of people that see him for what he is. He finally feel like he's belongs. He doesn't feel like he has to conquer something and then having to give that up. We see him in like the beginning, the first half of episode 6, and even like the whole episode 5 of him trying to find these multiple ways to understand the time slipping and trying to fix this problem it just turns out to is like you can't fix this, big dog.
Yeah, it's not gonna end the way you want, like regardless
Right.
of what you do, and that hurt. Oh man,
It did.
that hurt.
It was fun to watch though. That first half of episode 6 when he was just going back in time, and everybody was just looking like, "What are you doing? Like, how do you
How's
know
he do
that?"
it? Yeah, it's how does he do it on this? How do you know that?
And OB trips me out. He was like, "That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, get in there."
It was great. But man, yeah,
Definitely. But let's get into these characters. So we talked about Loki. But how did we feel about, let's just go down the line, Sylvie, Mobius, OB, who got introduced into this season, Casey, B15, the return of Renslayer, Miss Minutes. And I want to touch on Victor Timely. Let's start with him first.
Okay.
How did you feel about Victor Timely? So let's start with his introduction in Ant-Man Quantumanium versus how the character was actually portrayed in Loki season 2.
Okay, so I guess with that, are we going to, you want me to talk about Kang and Victor, or just Victor?
Just Victor. Like, how was because I guess I would want to know, what was your reaction to first seeing him in the end credit scene of Ant-Man Quantumanium versus how they actually portrayed him in Loki season 2?
Okay, hold on. You might have to remind me, because I remember the end credits for Loki season. I mean, not Loki.
So
season,
at the end of Quantumanium, the end credit scene was Loki and Mobius. You remember when they went back to Chicago?
Oh, that's right.
They were sitting at his presentation, and Victor Timely gets on there, and then Loki is like spooked, like he looks like he's about to shit himself. Like, that's him, that's the guy, that's he who reigns, that's Kang. And then, so in my head, I'm thinking like, oh shit, a Kang variant.
Okay,
but then we get the Loki season 2, and I was like, what? This is funny. Like the way that Loki was like about to shit bricks over this man versus how he actually is.
Okay. Thank you for painting that picture, because in my head at first I was like, did I miss him in the group of Kangs that was cheering? Like what was going on? But apparently I just forgot about the Loki scene itself. So thank you for that. So with that, I kind of the same thing. Like I was expecting this to be like some version of Kang, like when he first started out, somewhere like in a alternate timeline or whatever, before it became dangerous or whatever, and that they were trying to stop. Like you remember how I said, like at the end of season 1, I thought he went to a different world where Kang took over. So maybe this was them traveling back to stop him before it became dangerous. When I get to this guy, this goofy inventor,
he's a con artist.
Yeah. I was totally surprised. It threw me for a loop, but I really enjoyed Victor Timely as a character. My favorite moment, I think, is when they brought him to the TVA and they asked him to trust them, and he said, "I am from Chicago. We don't trust like anybody." As a Chicagoan, I was like, this is great. This is amazing. But he was great throughout the whole thing. I really enjoyed the character. Yeah, he was a fun time.
I definitely liked how they kind of flipped the whole notion of a Kang variant on his
hmm
head, because he who remains, the way that he was, talking to Loki and Sylvie, he was like, you kill me, there's more of me, you know.
hmm
And we're looking at He Who Remains, and we're looking at Kang the Conqueror from it, and even let's talk about the other end credit scene from Ant-Man, the Council of Kangs.
Thanks. Yeah.
And we're just expecting all of these Kang variants to just be, twisted in the head, wanting some type
Evil.
of
Yeah.
form of dominance. And then we get to Victor Timely, and he's just like the complete opposite of what we've been explained to what a
hmm
Kang
Yeah.
variant
He is. Yeah.
could mean. And I don't know if Victor would have gotten there had Renslayer and Miss Menace got to complete their mission
hmm
or the way they wanted to, or was Victor Timely really gonna stand on his business and be like, I'm not who y'all think I
Damn.
am. Like, I understand like this time thing, and I understand that there's a person, a variant of me who's caused you guys so much, hardship,
Pain. Yeah.
your whatever, but would he have stood on business still and be like, what, I'm not that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been interesting to see if they given the chance, because I definitely was interested. Like, it's interesting because to me, I think like in the moment when I saw that he wasn't like the other Kangs, I just was like, well, yeah, that would make sense. I mean, like, out of millions of possibilities or billions of timelines, why would every Kang be the same exact copy paste like evil guy? I mean, even
Right.
like the way they showed like the Council of Kangs, I mean, like all of them were different. It was just like they were all conquerors. That was like the only like common thread. So I was like, it would make sense that not all of them would technically be like that. Even like the one who remained wasn't necessarily evil, as far as we know, because we don't know what he did in the past. But
I mean, controlling the will of everybody, maybe not violent evil.
well, but not like crazed conquery type
Yeah.
stuff. But like
Yeah.
that, I guess that's more so where I'm coming from. So like that was, I definitely think like the way they played with the perception, I think, of the character was great. But and what the difference is, what they made him was also like really cool. What they made it happen to him in, I don't remember what episode it was, but when he immediately got like turned into time strands or whatever.
Man, when I say I bust out laughing, like, it's one of those moments where you laugh and it's like, that's not funny.
But it was so, that wasn't what you were expecting. I could definitely see
Exactly. Like they flip, like that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another thing that like really flipped the whole Kang thing on its head, is because we went through all of this to get a Kang variant, because only his DNA, only his, cosmic signature can
Mhm.
fix all of this. And we get to the moment and he just turns into spaghetti string, and then that's real where it really sunk in to like, we're effed, because if the whole solution was to get a Kang variant and that didn't work, what the hell
Hell,
we gonna do now?
yeah. Yeah, so that like everything with surrounding Victor, I just really enjoyed, because it
hmm
was just like expectation after expectation subverted. Like it was fresh. It was completely fresh, and I really enjoyed that.
I did too, and it really makes you wonder, if Marvel continues with this Kang being the center of the multiverse story, how many more Kangs along that wavelength are we gonna meet? Or is
hmm
it gonna be like, from this point on, all of the Kangs are gonna be evil conquerors, hell
Yeah.
bent on destruction? Or are we gonna meet some more variant of Kangs that align with Victor Timely? That's like, hey, I would rather help you guys than, join the Council of Kangs and
hmm
cause a multiverse of war.
Yeah, I could see it going both ways. Like based on how they're doing stuff, I could definitely see like if they decide to keep going, that eventually it's going to be like only a Kang could like really help them stop another Kang or something like that, and it'd be one that's just like, I'm not really for this conqueror shit. Let me just help you guys out. So I could definitely see them pulling something like similar to Victor again. It's just like I will be looking forward to it to see how they pull it off. It's just the only thing.
Definitely. I do want to move on to Renslayer and Miss Minutes.
Okay.
Can we talk about that scene where they trap all them people in that box? Yo.
That I'm not saying that Marvel can't go dark, but that was crazy to me because I
didn't
was
even
not.
They didn't even show it. Like, obviously, we not finna show
humans
people
getting
compressed in a box. But it was just like, that the music swelling, and you just what's coming. You know what's about to happen next. And Renslayer standing there, and you can see the conflict of like, I don't want to do this, but if I, want to, hold my allegiance to He Who Remains and do my part, I'm gonna have to do it. And then you see Miss Menace in the corner, like, yeah, do that shit, do that shit, do that shit.
that was crazy. And but what I really liked about that is that like that was alluded to, like this is where I go back with like the foreshadowing, like because Loki did that to I don't remember that guy's
What's
name.
his name? Brad.
Yeah, Loki did it to Brad to try and get him to give up where Sylvie was, and it worked. And then fast forward, they used that to murder TVA agents, and I was just like, that is.
Well, they tried to do it for the same thing. You remember they tried to convince them to come to our side. They tried to do the same type of negotiation tactic, like, yeah, come on our side. And then when they refused, it was like, not like, let's use the box to force you to join. It's like, nah, y'all in the box. And y'all through.
It's over. It's crazy.
I am curious to see, or maybe it's done. Maybe Miss Menace is done. Maybe after that episode where they rebooted the system and she, went hard factory reset Miss Menace. I wonder if she'll stay like that. That would be curious to see. The other thing is that I'm curious on if they do anything else with Renslayer. Because it looked like, did it look like to you that they just booted her to like that end of time area where they ended up in at the end of Loki season 1?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it felt like to me. And that was, if I had only one complaint, that'd probably be it, is that like at the end, Renslayer just became like a note. Like, I don't know, like she was just like, all right, she's somewhere. We don't know, we don't know what she's doing, but she out there, basically. That was like my only probably complaint. And then the Miss Minutes thing, I would imagine that there might be a possibility to get her back to what she like was before the reboot, but I think at least for right now, they just have a fresh new Miss Minutes. If I had to guess anything, just based on how it ended, that didn't seem like a new intellect, because like she had to introduce herself and everything. So I'm like, that just seemed like they really reset her program, and she might not even recall or recollect like.
I wonder if somebody can, like, we're just touching back on the Kang thing and how the whole system was configured for like Kang to be able to do all these special administration controls. Could a Kang walk off in the TVA and cut her back on?
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
We'll see.
I just feel like they definitely introduced an interesting thing with how loyal Miss Minutes is to Kang, especially with the scene with her.
That scene was like, you never want to put me in a woman's body. And I was like, what are we talking about?
Miss Minutes, calm down.
Hey, what's that TikTok? He's showing her all his inventions and stuff. He turned around, where your clothes at? Yeah, but I definitely enjoy OB's character.
Yeah, the Ouroboros. OB is my guy.
Ouroboros. I love that fanboy moment between him and Victor Timely, and he was like, "You wrote this book?" He was like, I wrote this book because you wrote that
Wrote this
book.
book. Uh-huh.
They have that Spider-Man moment, like, ah.
That was great. That was, I mean, in my opinion, I really enjoyed every scene I think that OB was in. Like that first one when they first met him and they were like, we need he's time slipping. Time slipping in TVA has never happened. Wait. No, it has. There has been one instance of time
Oh,
slipping.
when Loki had went back, that was cool too.
And and it was just like, well, you would need this, but I don't have one of those. Oh wait.
You mean this?
This?
I really like the fifth episode where everybody was displaced and they couldn't, remember their place in the TVA. And Ouroboros thing, when when it starts out with him trying to buy his own book, it was like, get your ass out of here. Didn't I tell you stop selling your books? But I definitely like how they he's like, even in a form where he couldn't remember his place in the TVA, he could still like put everything together and help Loki out. Like you could still see like the whole thing coming full circle, even though they're not even in the TVA.
Yeah, like that was one thing I really like to think about that episode specifically, is that like you kind of saw like what formed the personalities that you get to see in the TVA. Like even though they weren't in that like same environment, that same thing, they still had like aspects of their character that you definitely noticed like translated 1-to-1 to when they be like what made them TVA agents. So that was
definitely great. OB, and then definitely Mobius. Like Mobius having that, no, I think you mean this. So let's just calm down. Like him still having that mellow tone, but we're going from finding Kang variants to trying to sell me a jet ski.
Yeah.
But it still feels like very Mobius.
These had that same type of charisma throughout, like in both instances and stuff like that, and even like handled, I feel like, really stressful situations the same too. So yeah, that was like great to see. I think that episode was really cool.
So how did you feel about Sylvie in this season?
It was really interesting because like, so the problem, I don't necessarily have a problem with Sylvie's character, but it was just interesting when she killed off He Who Remains. I was like, this is a very interesting turn for a character that I didn't think was that selfish, to just be like, the world's gonna end, but at least I get my revenge. Like that was, I was like, all right, okay, cool. So for her to go from that and then to be like, I'm living my life, and then like her advocating when stuff went like when the TVA went basically belly up and everybody got displaced into a regular life, her whole thing was like, well, I mean, Loki, they have the chance to live a regular life now. Like they were kidnapped, they got pulled away from this. Let that happen. And even then to also see her still be like somewhat hold a grudge against like He Who Remains, to the point where she wanted to take out Timely. I thought that was like, we got to see a lot of sides, I think, of her in this season, to like the point where like she kind of like slowly grew on me. Because like I said, like last season, I was like, I didn't dislike her, but I was also just like, that's a crazy thing to do, lady, to just be like, fuck the universe, I'm getting mine, to then become like
free
this.
will. And I feel like she was so hard focused in this season on like the free will thing, because it's like, even though the timelines are falling apart and you get to live your life out working in an 80s McDonald's, it's like you're like, despite what the hell is going on, you're still focused on you wanting this free will and everybody having this free will despite the cost. Like you'll still kill Kang variants, and just going back to Victor, who we know like doesn't have that, that personality to him. It's like you would still kill anything that threatens the free will, even though by having the means of how we got the free will is tearing the universe apart.
Yeah, that's why it was interesting. She was very much consistent, I feel like, throughout. It's just interesting, I think, like, even with shown like the end of like the universe or whatever, she was still very much like kind of like 50-50 on what to do, because like she was at the end and she was allowing Loki and them to like work with Timely and stuff like that because their whole thing was like we're not necessarily trying to destroy their timelines, we're trying to figure out a way so everything can work cohesively. And then when that went belly up, she was like, "All right, back to my McDonald's." I was
back to the McDonald's.
I was like, at least she's consistent. Like at least
I think I appreciated her for giving it a chance. Because it's just like, you just killed the Kang variant. And now here's another Kang variant. And, your whole stance was like, F the TVA, get them out of here. And for you to like really stick it through just to see if it would work. I appreciated that.
Yeah, that show definitely that itself showed growth in the character. I even was it that one of my favorite scenes even with her is like that thing with the record shop when she was like going in there and she was like, I just need something to kind of help me like get these emotions I'm feeling out, where she kind of felt like she was stuck in between like wanting to do something or just like letting everything happen. And like which even like then showed like an aspect of a character just like I had been fighting against this thing so much, but now I'm starting to see like Loki told her like the TVA still has a purpose. It still needs to happen. Like her being caught between that dichotomy and really trying to like still understand it. It was so interesting. And then the world collapsed, and it was like, all right, lady, do what you need to do.
We gotta do something.
Yeah.
But it was more so, I guess, the juxtaposition between Sylvie and Loki is because if we're really looking at it, this is Loki's first exposure to the TVA and everything that's going on. Like, for a brief point in time, his experience with the TVA was negative, and then it became more positive going through it. Sylvie's whole deal with the TVA has been negative for years.
Yeah. The only bright spot was Loki himself.
Right. So like, I wasn't mad that she was hell bent on like free will and just like having that attitude of like, I don't have to do anything, I just have to let it happen. It's because, like you said, you've been fighting against this thing for a whole time. And you mean to tell me this guy who just hopped in the TVA a couple years ago is gonna tell me that we can fix this shit? This shit has been wrong for years.
Yeah.
But I think I would have to agree with you. I think I did like Sylvie's character more this season than I did last season. Like, I didn't dislike her last season, but I think it just goes more into the fact like we see a lot of character development, and we're also seeing that Loki has to lose mentality.
Yeah.
Come into play, even on Sylvie's side, because it's not like not losing as a sense like she lost anybody, or if you want to consider the fact that she lost Loki, then yes, but you also losing that, I don't know what you felt like your purpose was.
Yeah.
Like this whole time her purpose has been let's fuck with the TVA.
Yeah. Escape.
And
stuff like that.
And now, like how you said before, like the moment in the record shop was really like that turning point moment of like, do I do something or do I not do anything? And it's kind of like losing or letting go of those ill feelings that you have for the TVA and trusting in that you can make it better.
Yeah. I think that's probably like a perfect display of just like how I grew to like the character more. I think this season is just like they gave her a lot like more growth in terms of just like where she started to where she ended up. So yeah.
How did you feel about the scene where Loki feels like he's doing the time traveling thing and he's just going back, and he finally goes so back in time that he ends up back in He Who Remains layer, if you want to call it, and is trying to stop Sylvie from killing him. And it happens so many times where Loki finally yells at him and they stop time and they have that conversation. How did you feel about
that? Oh, that was such a good, in my opinion, that was such a good like moment, because I was wondering, I was like, if he is out, if he who remains also exists outside of the natural conventional times, would he not know that Loki is constantly coming back into him to be like, we've had this conversation, or like you're different than the one that was just here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was such a good moment, and then him just basically boiling down, like I'm really trying to like do something, and and he who remains being like, look, man, you got a choice here. You know what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought that was great because it was legitimately like like we know I think like we knew from like the jump that like based on how things were going that he might have to take Sylvie out. Like it all led back to that. Even like Sylvie herself, I think like almost entertained the idea a bit, but like we knew that was something Loki couldn't do because if he could, it would have happened probably at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
So it just like left you wondering like what how is he gonna get out of this? Like really?
It was interesting to me how He Who Remains still tried to like manipulate the situation.
Mm,
Because, like you said, he kind of made it, he kind of tried to box Loki into the fact that, like, yeah, you want to fix all of this, you got to keep me alive, my boy.
mm-hmm.
You got to kill your girl. And you just got to keep me alive. Like, this is the only way you can fix me. Like, at a certain point, He Who Remains doesn't know, what's,
Yeah, what's gonna
is
happen?
happening or what's going to happen. So, him just sitting in this chair and be like, seems like your only choice is to keep me alive. And at a moment, it was like, nah, should we consider it?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I thought it was a very good scene to just like bring it back to where the problem started.
Yeah,
And I think for a lot of time travel stories, when they do go back to the beginning, it's just reverse what
yeah,
happened. We've
and
seen it with DC, with
mhm,
Flashpoint, where it's always let's just go back to the beginning and flip the action.
yeah, and we can
But
fix it.
and we can fix it. But here it was like, yeah, we fix it, but then we're either introducing another problem or the problem we were trying to fix in the first place is just going to
To
continue.
continue. Mm-hmm.
So it's an option that we don't want to choose.
Yeah. That whole thing was very interesting to me. Like that whole juxtaposition was very interesting, and I thought they pulled it off very well because it's like, as you said, if we keep him alive, this puts us back in to where we were at the beginning, and no one wants and like that's not desirable either. Like
Right.
there is no win-win here. Like I can't have my cake and eat it too. Was like the whole like thing I got from that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely like that Loki just, and then let's go back. So then he's presented with these options. And he goes back further in time and ends up with his first meeting with Mobius, where they're sitting in that theater room going through all his memories. And he has
Mhm.
that conversation with Mobius. It's like, how do you decide who lives and who dies? And at that moment, it really felt like he was really about to, lay down the pressure that somebody got to go.
Yeah. That's what I thought. It basically is that like when he went back to talk to Mobius, it was basically him trying to figure out or ask. He was basically asking Mobius like, "How do I make this decision? Like, I know something has to happen, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to do it." Like basically, that was him like trying to get the courage up enough to kill Sylvie, or even I think in a way now that I'm looking at it, could also have been like his like thing to be like self-sacrifice. Like
Mm-hmm.
what do I do here when I don't like the options I'm presented? And Mobius basically told him like sometimes that's just the job. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not some big thing. Sometimes it's just you got to make a choice.
And I like how he went back to a Mobius that didn't have the knowledge
Hmm.
of the situation. It's kind of like when you're having an argument with somebody and you're pulling in a third party that doesn't know the situation, can't be biased, it can give like an honest opinion. And I like that he chose to talk to Mobius, but I like that he chose to talk to a Mobius that had no idea of what the TVA actually was,
Mm-hmm.
everything that they went through. The Mobius that he's talking to is just like, yeah, you're a variant. We're gonna sit down and have a talk. I'm gonna show you some things and hope that your character changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there was no. I think that's perfectly describes it because there's no familiarity. There's no context to basically what's that. He could just like he just thinks Loki at right now at the end of this is like I know what's like I'm done playing a game here.
Hmm.
What's happening right now? And Mobius is just giving him an honest, genuine reaction, but really Loki's looking for a friend to answer like a dilemma for him. But that's not like who Mobius is in that moment.
Right. And I don't know if Mobius's opinion would have been biased had he went to a Mobius that had a little bit more familiarity with the situation. But I think his answer was very Mobius. And I wonder if he would have
Mm-hmm.
just gotten that same answer anyway. But he didn't, I guess he didn't want to get it from like where the emotions are high and it's like, okay, what are you about to do? And
Yeah.
maybe you'll try to stop me or whatever. So I'm gonna pick a Mobius that you don't know what I'm about to do.
Mm-hmm. I think like the way I looked at it was I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go to a person who like generally has no skin in what I'm about to do. Like they don't care about me, they don't care about the situation that's going on to them. They're just truly neutral. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
like that's how I was looking at it. Because like but I think that is a good thing to point out. If he might have talked to a Mobius that already had the familiarity with Loki, he probably wouldn't have been so straightforward with the answer of like sometimes you just got to do the job. He probably would have been like, where's this coming from? What's going on? Like, talk to me. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
friends generally do. But like, this was just like, you just got to, sometimes you just have to do the thing you don't want. Or because in the long run, it's better.
Definitely. And then I think that pushed him, I think that might have convinced him more to think that there has to be a third option
Mm-hmm.
or if you want to combine the option of keeping He Who Remains Alive and killing Sylvie one option, then it kind of, sparks that there could be a second option. And then his last discussion with Sylvie, when he finally, gets the idea of, I could replace this with something better. Like not get rid of it entirely, not try to, fix the broken pieces and hope that it, the picture is better. Like let's just replace it with something completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely love the way that the last episode was crafted.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to talk about, McMillian,
Mm-hmm.
is we've kind of been playing around with some theories, but I want to lay it all on the table. What are your
Okay.
theories for what comes next after Loki season 2? And side question, if Disney gets greedy and green lights a season 3, what would you want to see from a season 3 of Loki?
Okay. So I will answer that. Although I do not think they should do a season 3
I
of
agree.
Loki, at least right now. Um, I think the way they ended it for at least for Loki, I think whatever they decide to do moving forward can't be Loki. It has to be like TVA or something like that
Mm-hmm.
because this is Loki's story. At least right now, is concluded. Like there's nothing they can show me, at least in my opinion, that would make me think that like okay, there's something more to tell about his story, unless they're gonna show me how he keeps all the timelines alive, which I'm just like, I don't know if I really want a full explanation on that. I think keeping it a mystery does it better. But yeah, like that would be the only way I could see them coming back with like a third one. But I think whatever does come next, it would have to be TVA focused, and I think it would have to be like maybe potentially the TVA getting involved with maybe potentially like saving timelines or something of that nature, like being a force that protects like maybe timeline conquering or something like that.
Well,
That's how like I
they're
would think.
well, just to play on that, if you remember at the end of the episode, it seems like their new mission now is capturing Kang variants.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, all right. I couldn't completely remember exactly like what the like final thing was. I remember Mobius quitting and stuff like that, but I couldn't remember if they like said what their new like modus operandi would be.
Because you
But
remember
like
they
that.
had that file from
Mhm.
Quantumanium about the
Okay.
Kang they battled in there.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. So that would have been that basic. I mean, so basically, what I felt like was the thing was going to happen. So that would be like my thing is that they would probably prevent the conquering of timelines or the death of branches or something like that. Considering like their whole thing now is like it's infinite. Anything can happen. They don't have a problem with that, but it's more so like making sure we protect everything and not just like one thing. It's
Right.
probably like what I would see. So like a TVA, like potentially maybe like a what do they call it when stuff isn't like sequential? I forgot.
Or
Why
it's
am I
not sequential.
like?
Oh,
It's like when a series is happening, but necessarily the episodes or seasons they don't like complete. They're not like completely one after another. They're not like chronological.
I know what you're talking about. Like each episode is a different thing.
And
I
you
can't
like
remember the
even like
name
the
of it.
season itself could like the next season could be about different characters, but like same concept or generally
Right.
stuff like that. I forget. There's a word for it. I'm
There is a
blanking
word
on.
for it, and
Yeah.
I can't think of it right now.
But that would be like if something were to come next, if they wanted something directly after like the Loki thing, I could see them doing a TVA series like that.
Hmm.
And that stuff potentially leading into certain things with certain films. Cause I feel like you could easily be like, oh, this TVA episode is related to like the shit that could have been prevented. Like this would have happened if the TVA didn't get involved in this movie or XYZ. Like I think that'd be a fun little like Easter egg thing now and then, also be something interesting for people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't want a season 3 from Loki, but if they had to give it a season 3, I think it would have to focus, like you said, it would have to focus on the TVA. But I think I would want to I would want to see it from the standpoint of maybe we start getting into like the incursions. If we're leading up to Secret Wars with all of these multiverses like colliding into themselves in these
Mhm.
different timelines, like could we see a TVA series, foreshadowing the events that, that might be
Leads into the
happening?
secret.
Like
Mhm.
they put themselves as the first line of defense of what's coming for Secret Wars, and then like at the end of it, like it doesn't get done, or they fail. And it could go into like what you said, like certain episodes lead into certain movies. Like we want to do something fun, like B-15 pops up in the middle of Captain America,
Mhm.
and then we end up, in the movie, but because B-15 showed up, this didn't happen, or
Yeah.
because B-15 showed up, that happened.
Mhm. Yeah, so, like, I could definitely see stuff like that going on. I don't think I don't think, like, unless something generally crazy is about to happen that Loki needs to fully get involved with, there should be another Loki season. But if we're gonna continue stuff with the TVA, I think a TVA series would be perfect. I don't think I'd have a problem with that. But Loki itself, I'd be like, all right, y'all just want money. Like this is
Nah, for real, because what are we gonna do, just watch him sit in the chair for 6 episodes?
Like, is he gonna be surveying the timeline? Even then, I'm like, is
Is
that
it
interesting?
is he gonna inject himself in a timeline like, ooh, look at me? Like,
Mhm.
my theory is what to come next, period. I am interested to see how they continue with the Kang thing, because even though Loki is holding the multiverses together, the Kang variants are loose.
Mhm.
So what happens to the Kang variants they got loose? Like who's gonna, who's gonna spread that information? I guess Ant-Man.
Mhm.
Sure. Okay. I have opinions on that. But like the Kangs coming out, and then like how is he going to play into Secret Wars? Because I saw a theory that Loki's position, they may be trying to give Loki like Beyonder, like give him a Beyonder type
Hmm.
position.
I mean, based on how they ended the season, I could definitely see
Mhm.
how that. I mean, that would be plausible. Um, so that'd be interesting. And what I do wonder, I guess, like who is the person going to be informing people of Kang, or will it just be kind of like Kang shows up? Oh no, the TVA has to get directly involved, and then the TVA somehow with the current heroes we got, whichever that looks like, get involved with that, and then it becomes like a whole thing of like, hey, Kang is a thing. It got out. We were trying to keep it under wraps, but it got out of hand, and now we need to team up with the new Avengers or whatever, and then it goes from there. But it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it just goes back to like the initial conversation we had about the MCU. Like I don't know where this stuff is going. Or
My worry is right now with all this talk of like potentially switching Kang is that the effects of Loki season 2 are going to get lost on us, because I really
Yeah.
think the way it ended sets up a lot of interesting things that it could do. But like, if they need to change villains or focuses due to the personal things that are happening with it, like Jonathan Majors and stuff like that, it really does suck that the hard work that like the people that made this show put into is probably not gonna like amount to something, at least right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was watching a video and they were saying like if they do switch to Doctor Doom being the big villain of the multiverse saga, they could write off Kang and the variants of that the TVA just caught them all. And like you said, it is a simple explanation, but it also kind of sucks that we've been building up all of this lore of who Kang the Conqueror is and the variants and how he's integral to all of these timelines and the multiverse of war and all of that, just for us to switch villains and you just say the TVA caught them all. Well, if it was that goddamn simple, why did we have the Loki series to begin with?
Yeah, basically. Basically, yeah.
So my theory, I hope they continue with Kang. Whether they continue with Jonathan Majors or if they recast, I would want to see them continue with Kang, because I feel like we've just built so much up to it. Like, just even going back to like Ant-Man, like he's like, we've already had 2 characters go against some version of Kang. And just for us to have Quantumanium, as much as I dislike Quantumanium, for us, you have us sit through this 2-hour movie focused on Kang the Conqueror just to come back and tell me, oh, the TVA got rid of the rest of them. It's kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Marvel, I want you to listen to me right now. I don't know if you watch the Blurred Mob, but I hope you do. As a comic book fan, you can replace he can look different. The explanation is different timelines, different things happen. Like,
Hey, look, if Loki can have a female variant, Kang can have a variant that don't look like him.
Yeah, I mean, Loki had an alligator variant. Like,
he has a child variant.
Yeah, like you don't gotta. They don't gotta look alike. I just want you to know you can continue. It don't gotta be the same person.
Because I just feel like I know that Doctor Doom is like he is the central villain of Secret Wars.
Yeah, and he can very well carry. And I won't say like Doctor Doom isn't someone who could carry like a phase like villain. He is. For a lot of people probably wouldn't know that unless you like know much about the Fantastic Four and their comics. But I think the biggest issue is just like the fact how much work you've put into this one character already, and the fact that right now Marvel feels disjointed, and the fact like I'm not sure where things are going right now. I think to derail that even further would really hurt them.
Exactly, and that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head, because I was like, Loki season 1 came out in 2021. And we've been leading up to all of this stuff, and for us to just like switch gears real quick, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, pull a Terrence Howard, and just recast them. Because I think the storyline, I think the thing that we have going with Kang the Conqueror is a good one.
At this point, they have so many irons in the fire. It would hurt them, I feel like, to like pull one out, and because it's connected to so much, like you.
Because we're getting into incursions, we're getting into this multiversal stuff. It's just like we've introduced so much with the multiverse, and then with you introducing Kang, it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like if you guys wanted to do Doctor Doom, you should have introduced him first.
Yeah.
And,
or teased them or something.
Or teased them. I heard, and this is not to go on a tangent, but But I heard that the original end credit scene for Wakanda Forever had Doctor Doom in it.
I would have been surprised if that was the case. It would have been interesting only because, like, there's in the regular, assuming Black Panther happens in the regular universe, which I'm pretty sure it does, there has been no mention of any of the Fantastic Four people. The mission that, like, causes them to get powers and the whole thing that happened to Doom, like, none of that has been mentioned. So it would have just been very weird. But I could have seen it because Namor got involved. I mean, like, you're touching on the whole different kingdoms within the Marvel universe, and Latveria, which I'm pretty sure is Doctor Doom's is Latveria.
Yeah.
Would have definitely been interested of fucking Atlantis and Wakanda fighting. You've been like, oh yeah, this is definitely something I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it just goes back to if we want to talk about, legal or business wise, is that Marvel, a long time ago, Marvel didn't own all these characters. So it's also going into the challenge of how do we integrate these heroes that we now own into stories we've been telling for like 10 plus years now.
Yeah. I mean, because they got, if I'm not mistaken, they have all of them. They have all the rights to everybody except Spider-Man. So it's like, what do we? And they know people are clamoring, I think, for like certain adaptations of certain people because they have the thing is, it's so funny because Marvel made like Iron Man popular because I think before like the first Iron Man movie, people weren't really
ain't nobody was fooling with Iron Man.
Yeah, no one was really like paying attention to him like that, and now he's like a household name superhero, right? So it's like now you have the popular people, like you just got the right to X-Men now, and me, just gonna show you a storm. Like I even was like, all right, hurry this shit up, give me what like even though I don't mind, like I would have been interested in, even if they like if it takes a while because I want them to be careful with the characters they have. I still even was very much like, all right, cool, you make your Ant-Man movie, you got your little next Avengers shit, where the boys with the X's on them, where they at? Like I get they're under pressure, but I really hope it's the same thing I said with DC. I hope people understand. I hope they understand the fact that they are making them anyway is enough for people. Just like give it time, because when you rush it, you ruin it. Like that's the whole thing with DC. They didn't give enough time to build out their universe. They were like, oh, somebody has one. We need one now, and that was the worst thing they could have done.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm interested on what comes next. Let's just hop into this last bit. So, with the strikes and everything with the MCU slate, Deadpool 3 is the only MCU movie coming out in 2024. And from the rumors and everything we've been seeing floating around social media, it's supposed to be a time travel story, and the TVA may be involved. So this could be your post Loki type situation you were asking for, McMillian.
Yeah. I think I hadn't heard much of that, except I think when you sent me the doc and I started looking into that because I hadn't heard much about it. So it's very interesting because I'm just like, one, Deadpool is chaos, so definitely don't want him running around timelines he's not supposed to be in. But it's just interesting because like I now know Wolverine is involved, and if we're time traveling and stuff like that, and they've already shown in the Deadpool movies that like they have the other X characters there in some form or fashion, right? So I'm wondering, like, will we get like, is the sticky situation with TVA is like mutants themselves potentially? Like, because me and you have talked about this a lot offline. Like, how will they truly introduce mutants into the MCU? Could it be that simple fact of like they themselves are an anomaly and the TVA does not know truly what to do with them, and Deadpool is caught up in like this chaotic situation itself?
It could be that. Or they just trying to catch Deadpool. Like, who is this man flopping between all these timelines? And then it might play into, and we gotta save this because I don't want to spoil nothing from the Marvels, but you know what I'm talking about. That it could lead into what we just saw in the Marvels.
Yeah.
So like they're playing around a lot with this multiverse stuff, and I just don't want to see the MCU derail at the last minute.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think, when they started the multiverse thing, I was excited. I mean, we even predicted on this very podcast, the multiverse
I want my
saga.
check, Kevin.
We even predicted the name of the multiverse saga before they even said anything.
The first episode.
So
I want my check.
So, and I think, I don't know if I expressed it in this, but a worry of mine was when you expand your scope from one universe to multiple, there's obviously going to be a worry of like you losing sight of your goal. And I'm really hoping that's not the case with what's happening right now, because like that, I would be remiss to say that's probably not what it feels like, because even we talked about at the beginning, they're throwing a lot of shit out there, and nothing really feels connected at the moment. I mean, we'll talk about it in your Marvels episode. There's a little bit now, but like even that, like where is this going?
Definitely, we're getting like little tidbits, a couple lines connecting here and there, but I feel like we have some ways to go before we fully grasp what it's meant to be for this multiverse saga.
Yep.
So we've made it through all of the hot takes, McMillian. Is there anything else you would like to discuss?
I'm trying to think. No, I think we touched on everything I would like to talk about. I just, at the end of it all, like, Loki was great. It was a really wild ride, and I'm waiting. I truly hope they pull something out of this, because I don't want them to have done such a good job.
Don't leave my boy sitting on the throne holding the timelines for nothing.
Yeah. That's basically all that I would end it off right there.
Give him something. But if that's all, we're going to go ahead and shut this down. So first, I want to thank you, McMillian, for joining me on an episode of the Blerd Mob podcast.
It was
great.
My honor.
It was great having you here, sharing your opinions on Loki. For everybody who is going to miss the soothing sound of McMillian's voice, don't fret. We have our Marvel's Mob review coming soon, which McMillian will also be a part of. So turn that frown upside down. We'll be back. Second, I want to thank everybody who's been listening and watching. All of the interactions and everything have been truly appreciated. So thank you. Whether this is your first time or 50th time watching, it is always appreciated. Before I get into our socials, McMillian, want to open the floor to you to tell the audience of where they can find you.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna just say what I say on my podcast. Appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz on this lovely podcast's page. It would be appreciated. If you want to find me and what myself and Ace get into, we do an anime podcast called Gurren Otaku Council. That same name on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to find us on Twitter, that is at Gurren Otakus. You can find us on Spotify under the same name and YouTube under the same name. Please go ahead and come and join us. We discuss animes throughout like the current season. Right now, we're following along with JJK. So for those that watch that and or want to see all the crazy shit we get into with that, come check us on out. We'd love to have you.
Man, Shibuya going dumb.
Oh my God.
Hold on. Just side note. Shibuya going dumb.
Oh man. We are having a time over on the podcast talking about that.
Nah, for real. But don't fret. Everything that McMillian just mentioned will be in the description of this audio or video, however you're enjoying this episode. So make sure you check that out after, at the end of the video, and check out Gurren Otaku Podcast. If you want to find more of the Blerd Mob podcast, make sure you check out our socials. We're on Facebook and TikTok at the Blerd Mob Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and Threads at the Blerd Mob Pod. And you can find us on Twitter, X, whatever you would like to call it, at the Blerd Mob. Make sure you click on those links in our description to our affiliate link to Entertainment Earth. Get you some Funkos, some statues, anything your heart desires. If you don't want to buy anything, check out our Ko-fi link. That is straight donations. It goes towards equipment, subscriptions, and everything that keeps the lights on and give you guys these lovely episodes. And just one more time, as McMillian has said earlier, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like that video, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit those bell notifications. And with all that being said, this is the mob checking out. Peace.
I ain't gonna lie. It kind of got to. I mean, we put all our hope in James Gunn.
I don't think it. I would say this. I don't think it has to. It has to be good. Don't get me wrong. It has to be good, and it has to be a good start for the DC.